was to make sure that we're providing Israel everything it needs in this moment to deal with the attacks from Hamas. And as I said, I would expect that there'll be more on that later today.
Before I move on, I just want to ask about any Americans who are in Israel. Is there any indication that Americans were either killed or kidnapped by terrorists?
Yes, we have reports that several Americans were killed. We're working overtime to verify that. At the same time, there are reports of missing Americans, and there again, we're working to verify those reports.
It does seem like this very coordinated attack came out of nowhere. I want our viewers to listen to what the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said just 9 days ago.
The Middle East region is quieter today than it has been in 2 decades. Now, challenges remain. Iran's nuclear weapons program, the tensions between Israelis and Palestinians. But the amount of time that I have to spend on crisis and conflict in the Middle East today compared to any of my predecessors going back to 9/11 is significantly reduced.
Well, that obviously has changed dramatically, not just for Jake Sullivan, but for all of you. And this isn't specifically about anything that Jake missed, but more broadly about the intelligence failure, not just by the Israelis, but the U.S. What can you say about that?
Well, two things, Donna. First, what Jake Sullivan said was right. If you look at the relationship among countries in the Middle East, you saw, with a lot of work by the United States, countries coming together, the region integrating, hostilities diminishing. And we've been very engaged in pursuing, for example, normalization between Israel and its neighbors, building on what's already been done, including with Saudi Arabia. And other conflicts, like the conflict in Yemen, where we've had a truce now for almost 2 years, have made a huge difference. What happened over the last 24 hours, it doesn't go to state conflict, where Jake is exactly right. It's diminished. This goes to a terrorist attack by a terrorist organization. At the same time, we have been intensely focused on tensions between Israelis and Palestinians. That's why we brought them together in Sharm el-Sheikh and Aqaba to try to get both sides not to engage in acts that could precipitate hostilities, violence. And that, unfortunately, does not include Hamas, because it's a terrorist organization. And it took action, as we've seen over the last 24 hours, that has had a terrible impact. But that's what was going on. In terms of the intelligence, there'll be plenty of time in days to come to look and see what anyone missed, what we could have done better. Right now, the focus is on helping Israel, making sure that it has what it needs to deal with this attack.
Understand. The U.S., you mentioned Saudi Arabia. I wanted to ask you about that because the U.S., your administration, has been working to help craft a normalization deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Do you think that this attack was in part to disrupt that, and could that be successful?
Certainly that could have been part of the motivation. Look, who opposes normalization? Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. So it wouldn't be a surprise that part of the motivation may have been to disrupt efforts to bring Saudi Arabia and Israel together, along with other countries that may be interested in normalizing relations with Israel.